almost game day, your Raiders preview. What are we, week 13, week 14, as the Raiders host the Chargers here at Allegiant Stadium. As you can tell, within the first 20 seconds of the show, the voice might be a little raspy, I must admit, but there's a lot going on. USA's taking on the Netherlands right now. Last night at Allegiant Stadium, a complete sellout for the Pac-12 championship as Utah upsets USC. And by the way, we were all fooled. I thought it was going to be a USC home game in there. It was a 50-50 split. Matter of fact, more Utah fans possibly as they pull off the upset. They beat USC for 2 times in one season, costing them not only the Pac-12 championship, but most likely a slot in the college football playoff. And also, I didn't think we'd go here on the Raiders preview show as they take on the Chargers, but when it comes to Caleb Williams, ultimately, he'll probably end up winning the Heisman, but I'll tell you this. Kid really didn't have a Heisman moment other than having what he put on his nails, which is an expletive about Utah in the Pac-12 championship, and then they lose by 20 points. They get blown out, and he had to get out of the game because of an injury. It's really not a good look, but I digress. Welcome inside if you're tuning in right now on 98.5 The Fan HD2 or 1140 The Bet. But more than likely, you're tuned into the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. So we appreciate you on today's show. We're checking in with the Silver and Black Today crew. Scott Gulbransen will join us. It's been quite a while since he's been on the show. We'll talk about the latest with the Raiders. Where we're at, man. 2 games in a row, 2 victories, both on the road, both in overtime. One against a terrible team in the Broncos, one against a surprisingly good team and a MVP candidate in Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. So 4-7, chaos for the AFC wildcard with New England losing and being 6-6. Everyone is basically in play. Of course, Chargers sitting at 6-5 currently. So it's a big game for them. And then maybe some magic can be pulled off. Before we go to Scott Gulbransen, we'll also be joined by Fernando Ramirez, who covers the Chargers, a beat reporter for the Sporting Tribune, and kind of get the insight from the Chargers perspective. But let's get into the injury status because we got to go straight into these interviews. We got a lot going on. So ahead of the game, the latest from the Chargers is Derwin James, who was out most of the week, and Bryce Callahan, the other cornerback, both obviously in the Chargers secondary, both really fantastic players. They didn't practice much this week except on Thursday, where they were both at full strength after not practicing most of the week. So more than likely, they're listed as probable. They're going to play. One person who's not going to play for the Chargers, and this is huge, is wide receiver Mike Williams. He's been ruled out of the game after not practicing on Thursday. On the flip side for the Raiders, I know earlier in the week Anthony Averett went on the IR for the second time this season, meaning he is out for the rest of the year. For the Raiders, I guess the big concern is Josh Jacobs after an incredible 303-yard performance and 39 carries, the most of his career, going into the game with a calf strain, still dealing with it. There's been reports, I know Tom Pelissero put it out, that the Raiders have been giving him around-the-clock treatment to make sure he can be healthy enough to be, active in this game. And same kind of deal with Derwin James, where he didn't really practice much on Thursday. He did go on the practice field, so more than likely he's listed as questionable, but I think they're going to give him a go and see what they can get out of him. Of course, Josh Jacobs having a crazy year, leading the league in rushing yards with over 1,100 so far. Same can be said in terms of injury status. Nate Hobbs was on the practice field as well after not being at practice most of the week. And like I just said, Anthony Averett being out for the rest of the year. That secondary is very thin. And Coach Josh McDaniels said, obviously they want him to play, but they're watching him, and more than likely he will be on the field on Sunday against the Chargers. And with that being said, we got to plug some things really quick before we go to Scott Gulbransen. Be sure to follow us and let us know what you think. 98.5 The Fan on Twitter, The Bet Las Vegas on Instagram, and be sure to hit me up too at Adrian Radio 93. That's Adrian Radio 93 on Twitter, at Heavyweight Radio on Instagram. Let us know what you're feeling with this game, your predictions, and where you're at, man, because obviously we thought and I say we, I mean Raider Nation, we all thought this year would be a lot more successful. They're making up for some mistakes. They're finally winning close games after being 0-6 in one-score games, and getting some positive momentum. So I want to know where you're at with not only Josh McDaniels and his status, but just everybody, Derek Carr and the team in general. So be sure to hit us up on social media, and we'll be right back with Scott Gulbransen. It is almost game day Raiders preview here on Audacy.
Hello, I am Fernando Hernandez, and you are listening to my song, Adrian Hernandez.
Hey, it's 11:40. The Bet. It is almost game day. Raiders, your preview. Here's the Raiders get ready to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. Joining us now, it's been a minute, but from Silver and Black Today, the original Audacy podcast, Scott Gulbransen joins us, of course. He hosts Silver and Black Today with his co-host, Mo Moulton. And Scott, we'll start here because I have a couple goals for this interview, just like personally. Number one, obviously, we got to get people ready for this game on Sunday. Number two, I need to make sure this interview doesn't end up like Jonathan Abrams' career. And first and foremost, like there's so much going on. And like I said, it's been a minute since we've talked. I know you're a dad, and obviously Christmas is coming. So we start with my personal life. So when it comes to my kid, my 4-year-old son, Sire, I kind of spoil him. He has like every Marvel character. He has a whole bunch of Legos. And I kind of was approached by his mom, and this is her plan. She says, look, this year we're going 2 gifts, small gifts for each of us. So I get 2, you get 2, and then we combined for the final gift and we get in something big. And that sounds logical. Okay.
Sure.
It sounds economical, but there's something in my heart that doesn't seem right with him only opening 5 gifts on Christmas. So talk me through this. What do I do?
Well, so it's a good question, and I will tell you that having 5 kids now, with my oldest being 25, my youngest is 11. I've been through it all, right? So I've done the Christmases where we bought them so much stuff that we couldn't walk in the room on Christmas morning because there was just stuff everywhere. And I will tell you that there's a balance to be struck. So I get it. The excitement of opening gifts on Christmas morning and all that, for a kid especially, right? That's when it's the best. Is awesome. But I've overdone it, Adrian, in the past where we got done with it. We said, wow, they just opened all this stuff, and for the last 3 days they played with 3 things, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is. I mean, as a kid, the opening is great, but we as our kids kind of moved along the path. What we found, first of all, their gifts get more expensive as they get older, as I'm sure you're going to find out.
Got a couple more years till I can buy a video game console. A couple more years.
Xbox, Dad, Xbox, or whatever. So from that perspective, my advice to you: it's not a bad plan, but I don't think it's also bad if you do a bunch of little stuff or things that we used to like to do things like books. And stuff that's not real expensive, but they get to open it, and it also enriches their life, right? Because the best thing, in my view, you can do is read to your kids. And going by my first 2 kids, my daughter got a full academic scholarship, was a National Hispanic Merit Scholar. So I'm thinking it worked. So I mean, I think those are the types of things too, as well. It doesn't have to be expensive. So maybe you can find some middle ground with Sire's mom, and say, hey, listen, let's go a little bigger than 5, but let's just keep it under X dollars or something like that, just so he's got a little more excitement. Or you take a gift that's got 4 pieces and you kind of separate it. It might be something, if he wants to learn how to cook, you give him a bowl with some cake mix in it, and then a spatula, and this separately. So that would be my recommendation to you.
Look at this. For anyone who's trying to get some Raiders content before the game, I promise you, there's a father out there dealing with the same thing, and we're here to help you as we help our lives. And let's get to the football. 2 big, huge games at Allegiant Stadium this weekend, Pac-12 championship game, and then, of course, Chargers.
The sold-out Pac-12 championship.
Yes, minutes ago, sold out, and the most expensive, and it'll be a complete home game for USC, as only like 3% of Utah's purchased tickets. But for the Raiders, of course, they've won 2 in a row, both on the road, beating the Broncos, beating the Seahawks. They sit at 4-7. Just like, where's your headspace right now? Where should Raider Nation be in terms of this season and how it's going along?
Well, I know in today's hyper socially media driven world, negativity seems to sell more. But what I've been preaching to Raider Nation, and believe me, I've been hard on Josh McDaniels. I've been hard on the organization for how the season started. But there's some positive momentum. And I've said over the last couple of weeks, even in a season that disappoints, there's no way the season won't be disappointing. I'm sorry. I still don't think they make the playoffs. Is there a chance? Yes. I just don't think it happens. But I will tell you this, all you need for a team like this is positive momentum for them to feel better about themselves, for the organization to find out what pieces that are there and are in place that you want to keep. Because there's going to be roster turnover, Adrian. They're going to have to turn stuff over at the end of the season, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So guys are playing for their jobs. But more than that, with a new system, with a new coach, with a lot of new players, they put in a lot of hard work and they didn't see any benefit from that. They weren't winning, they were losing. Now, 2 overtime wins in a row, this team feels like it's starting to find its mojo and get better to the point where they should be competitive in all games. They shouldn't blow big leads. And so the Chargers coming in with a horrendous run defense. And if Josh Jacobs can get that calf in the shape he did against Seattle, then suddenly you got to feel pretty good about Sunday at Allegiant Stadium. And if I'm a Raider fan, while having that tinge of disappointment, I just want to see the guys get better, and I think they are.
And I want to ask you this, and I don't want to go into this social media like negative space, but I do want to have this conversation. And I know your co-host Mo Moten is kind of, when it comes to Josh McDaniels in specific, kind of telling people like, hey, I get it. This hasn't been a great season, but what are we just going to do the same thing and fire a coach and just keep rotating door and keep getting people in here?
Yes.
And I know stats and everything can fit a narrative, like however you want to turn for an argument and stuff. But when it comes to Josh McDaniels, like I give him full credit for realizing, because we even talked about this after the Tennessee game of like, why did Josh Jacobs disappear? And this team kind of went full go in the run game. But at the same time, I also have to realize like this is Derek Carr's worst season as a pro player. And he's had all these pieces. Granted, they haven't been healthy throughout the season, but that's the NFL. So basically, where do you stand on that with like, okay, cool, the run game's been crazy and we didn't expect it. But also, you came here for one reason and you had added pieces when you came in here as the head coach, and it's turned out terribly.
Yeah, so I think you have to have patience. Has he done everything well? Obviously not. You don't sit at 4-7 because all the decisions you made were brilliant. And you're right about the run game. Josh Jacobs, I keep saying it, Adrian, without Josh Jacobs running like he has, this team doesn't have a win. I mean, they don't have a win without him. They just don't. As good as Devontae Adams is and has been in several games this year and having such a great season, it doesn't matter. Without Josh Jacobs, they do nothing. So you have to understand that. But at the same time, I think Raider fans who don't like Josh McDaniels are not giving him credit for the adjustments he has made. Has he made all the adjustments I think he should? No. But at the same time, there has been progress there too. Just like with the team, I think you're seeing a better called game every week on offense. So he's obviously been listening and understanding not only the going to Josh Jacobs, but also the play selection. It's been much, much better. Yes, he still has some questionable and strange calls on 3rd and long and 4th and long sometimes, like we saw against Seattle. Of course, with the big pitch that went nowhere, but that's okay. Again, I think a lot of people look at Josh McDaniels. They look at the Denver situation when he was there as a young guy that didn't go well. But in reality, he's a first-time head coach again. He's not somebody who has a bunch of experience and comes in and you expect just to figure it out like that. So I think you have to be patient and you have to have the ability to have stability. Okay, so without stability, I don't care if you're in radio, if you're in football, or you're in accounting, it's not going to go well for you. So Raider fans who are angry and want somebody fired after 6 games, what are you going to get? You're going to get what you've had for the last 25 years.
And you bring up Josh Jacobs and the season that he's had. And even before this season, we talked about it, bringing up Jonathan Abram again, either Jonathan Abrams or Josh Jacobs, who needs to have a bigger season. Thankfully, one of those has panned out. And of course, it's been the hot topic of conversation after his performance last week. Where are you on Josh Jacobs and his contract status? And should the Raiders, invest to bring him back? And how do you see this playing out?
Well, it all depends. And if you look at Josh Jacobs, if I'm Josh Jacobs, by the way, I want to test the market. Saquon Barkley is going to be out there. He might reset the market. It's been estimated about 12 to 13 million for Josh Jacobs after what he's done this year, and based on the market, that market could change. That number could go to $15 million. I don't know about you, as great of a season as he had, and I certainly appreciate what he's done for the team. I'm not paying $15 million for a running back in the NFL with all the needs that you have on defense, with all the question marks you have on offensive line. I think it comes to economics. It doesn't come because he's not a great player, but a running back in the NFL has a very short lifespan. And so for me, if I want to keep him, I can tag him and pay that. I think it depends where they're at. But at the same time, I think if they tag him, it would be to negotiate a longer deal. And I don't think the Raiders, after making the big deals they made last offseason, really have the ability to do that. And if I'm the Raiders, I'd rather invest the money in defense and invest the money on bolstering the offensive line.
And you talk about the investments that have been made to this team heading into the season. Of course, one of those, the contract extension of the homecoming king of Las Vegas, as I like to call him. Him and Kelsey Plum, they're the king and queens of Vegas, apparently. Darren Waller, of course, and it's just since training camp, he hasn't been Kyler Murray drama status like the Cardinals, but there's been drama surrounding him throughout the season, and of course some of the injuries, and has been on the field. And just to plug your guys' show, I know you guys really deep dove into what's going on, so I need to know what's going on with Darren Waller.
Well, that's the $17 million question, right? Is what's going on with Darren Waller? Obviously on IR, but go back to last season where he was injured, missed 6 games, goes into the offseason, has surgery, has an injury, doesn't practice at all during camp and the preseason, goes in the regular season, only lasts a few games, and then he's out again. So you look at that situation and you say, listen, this guy has just amazing God-given talent. He's like no other tight end from a talent perspective in the NFL. But again, your greatest asset is your availability. And Darren Waller has missed 52% of the Raiders games over the last 2 years. You cannot pay a player top dollar if he can't stay on the field. I don't care how good he can be. And again, that's all based on potential. And I think that's what we've really been diving deep on. And we go back to the offseason, Adrian, folks out there can check our show from July and August. We said, and we had Cynthia Freeland from the NFL Network on, and she agreed there was no reason to give him an extension this year. He had 2 years left on the contract. He's coming off injury-prone season and surgery in the offseason. And I get trying to make guys feel good and tie up your core like Dave Ziegler wanted to do. But with Darren Waller, it's been a bust. And then we hear a few weeks ago, Vinny Bonsignor at the RJ writes a story that there's some grumblings in the building that maybe they're not happy with his ability to come back from the injury. Then we hear JT the Brick, who works for the Raiders and does a radio show, talking the other day about somebody in the locker room who people aren't happy with, and that he's not trying to come back from an injury. I don't think that's Hunter Renfrow, by the way, by what he said. And then again, we get another story today about the same situation. So I think the Darren Waller situation is if I'm the Raiders, especially if he doesn't come back this year at all, which we don't know if he will or not,
should he? That's a fair question, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, hey, I'm paying you all that money. Come back. Yeah, absolutely. Now, does he want to come back? I don't know. He doesn't seem to want to get on the field, or he hasn't been able to. Dr. David Chow was on my good friend Q's radio show, and he talked about the fact that there's something not right with this injury, because based on what we've been told what his injury is, he should already be back. So now you have a doctor, an NFL doctor, saying that there's something not right with this. So I don't know what's going on, but clearly Darren Waller and the future with the Raiders, I think, is up in the air. If I'm the Raiders, whether he comes back or not, if I can get draft capital in the offseason, a 4th round, 3rd round draft, whatever they can get for him, I do it, because they got a lot of other needs and they need to get younger, and they have to get guys that can get on the field and stay on the field.
No, 100%. And before we get you out of here, well, first off, hold on, let me backtrack real quick. It's cool that we segued. I started talking about my Christmas presents and just buying too many gifts. And it seems that's what the Raiders did last offseason. Just everybody get a contract extension. They got hyped off the Devontae Adams, and rightfully so. You got to go after it in this division. But before we get you out of here, we do need to talk about these Raiders fans apparently being the rudest in the NFL. Now, I feel like when it comes to this question, I have a special sort of expertise because I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, which means, unfortunately, I'm a Browns fan. So to me, the rude could be mistaken for someone who's just been hurt a lot in relationships with people that they care about. All right, so is it rude or are they hurt?
Well, so listen. I think that it was these surveys, while they're fun for us guys with microphones in front of us to talk about, they don't really mean a lot. And I think the one they got right was number one, which was the Philadelphia Eagle fans, because they are terrible and they're horrific. And if you're a Philadelphia Eagle fan, I've been there enough. I know exactly who you are. So don't come preaching at me. But I will tell you this: with the Raider fans, I had one of our listeners email me today, actually, and he said, "Listen, the reason that we sometimes get a reputation for causing fights or being rude is because we really look at each other as a family. So if you pick on one of us, we'll jump in and we will defend our folks. That's how close we are." Now, that was his explanation. I think it's overblown. I've been around Raider fans a lot now for 6.5 years, and I just have never seen it. Yes, is there bad apples in every group? You betcha. Is there guys who get too drunk and go to a game and start fights? Absolutely. It happens in baseball, it happens in the NBA, it happens in hockey, you name it. But I don't think Raider fans, in fact, I've never been, I grew up a Charger fan. So I grew up as somebody who didn't like the Raiders, and Raider fans treat me better than Charger fans do. So I don't want to hear that they're rude. I don't believe it. I think they're the most passionate. Not only that, but you look at Raider fans and how they come together for charity through all these different fan groups, like the Black Hole, my good friend Murph at Raiders Fan Radio. They raised $10,000 for the Fred Blitnikoff Foundation and their dinner coming up, the Crab Fest in Las Vegas. So I don't want to hear that they're rude. I think Raider fans get a bad rap because they might look scary with all the makeup and the pads and all that stuff.
I love it. And before we get you out of here and plug everything you got going on, just the key factors that you're looking in when it comes to this Chargers Raiders game on Sunday.
I think the biggest factor is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs plays like he did, he doesn't have to gain 300 yards of total offense, of course, but if he's healthy enough to go, because we know he might not practice all week, if he's healthy enough to go and can carry the load like he did against Seattle, I think that gives the Raiders an incredibly upper hand. I also think the Raiders pass offense against the Chargers banged up defensive backs is also an advantage for them, but it's all going to come back to whether or not Josh McDaniels can give Josh Jacobs the load that he needs to, but also spell him. The Raiders had a very heavy and I thought talented running back room heading into the season, and they haven't developed it. It's been all Josh Jacobs. They need to get Zamir White or somebody.
Yes,
Zamir.
To spell him
a little bit.
Yes, no, exactly. And before we get you out of here, last thing, plug everything you got going on. What's on the latest edition of the Silver and Black Today, the Audacy original podcast?
Okay, well, I did announce my candidacy for president yesterday. No, I'm kidding. Nobody wants that job.
Raider Nation president, let's go.
But yes, the Audacy original podcast, Silver and Black Today. By the way, number 3 in the entire network in NFL podcast. So thank you all for listening. But you can get that anywhere you get your podcast. You can also listen to us over the air on 1140 The Bet. That's really early for those of you working the overnight shift there in Vegas, 4 a.m., but also on 98.5 The Fan, sister station, at 9 a.m. as well. So go ahead and do that. You can find us wherever you get your podcast.
There it is, getting us the Raiders coverage we need and we deserve. Scott Gulbransen, thank you as always.
Peace. Take care, Adrian.
Hey, it's 1140 The Bet, Las Vegas. Whether you're listening to us on the radio, check us out on YouTube. It is almost game day. Your Raiders preview shows, we get you ready. 2 big games at Allegiant Stadium this weekend. We got the Pac-12 Championship, and of course, we got the Chargers coming to town to take on the Raiders. And joining us now from the Sporting Tribune, who covers the Chargers, is Fernando Ramirez. Fernando, first and foremost, first time on the show. Welcome to the program. How you doing, man?
Appreciate it. Now I'm good. Thank you so much. I just getting off of having a cold. I had a cold for a couple of days and my voice is starting to come back. So I'm excited about that. I'm day to day right now, but I should make a full recovery before Sunday.
Well, that's good because the Chargers and Raiders are dealing with a hell of a lot of injuries. Also, I'm getting the sniffles too as well.
Yeah.
I do need to ask you before we get into the sports, because like the sports are cool. They're going to be there. And this is our first time, just for people listening. It's our first time talking to each other and everything. Your profile picture on Twitter, which by the way, on Twitter, you can follow Fernando at Real F Ramirez. It's you and Becky Lynch at the WrestleMania announcement. And then I see right behind you, Becky Lynch is over there. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I need to
Oh yeah,
know
so
if
am
you
I.
are as well.
Oh yeah, huge. Yeah, no, humongous. I think wrestling is amazing. There's no off season. I know everybody's like, "Oh, it's like a drama show and it's not real." Well, to me, it's awesome. I think it's amazing. I think that yeah, it has everything you want. It has athleticism with a little bit of drama. Who doesn't like all that stuff? Everybody's like, "Oh, I don't like drama," but ahí salen con tóxicos y tóxicas. Hey, I'm all about it. I'm all about wrestling. So,
Life's a drama. Like,
I
come
know.
on.
Exactly. So,
Let's get into this real quick before we get into the football.
yeah,
So,
I'm
who's your
good.
favorite wrestler right now? Current right now.
I honestly, I'm split between two, but if it had, well, Becky's my favorite female wrestler. Like, I think she's amazing everything that she does. If I had to go with with men, it would either have to be Roman Reigns. I like his character right now. I think what he's doing is amazing. Or MJF. I think MJF, what he's doing on AEW, he's carrying AEW right now. And I know they have John Moxley and Daniel Bryanson and all these other guys, but I think MJF is carrying AEW and Roman Reigns. Man, I'm so pissed off at Vince for having him be the Roman Empire and all this crap. If this is what Roman would have given us as a heel for years on end, he should have been a heel from the beginning.
He should have been the anti-Cena, just been the heel the
Oh
whole
my God. But
time.
him with Paul, like, find you somebody that loves you as much as Paul Heyman loves his tribal chief. Like, that's the kind of love I want. That's the kind of love I want. I want to find somebody who loves me the way that Paul Heyman loves his tribal chief.
I don't think this has ever been said, but find you a Paul Heyman out in these
Exactly.
streets. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
a Paul Heyman guy. I'm a Paul Heyman guy.
As we all should be. And you brought up AEW, so I'm just assuming. So we watch both regularly. Like how much wrestling are you consuming? Because there's a lot, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
There's so much. Sometimes I don't watch any.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't watch Raw and SmackDown on TV. I watch it on YouTube. I just go through the clips. Give me the clips. I'll watch all the pay-per-views. All the pay-per-views I will watch from beginning to end. It doesn't matter how boring the match is. Well, ever since Triple H took over, the matches have actually been very, very, very good. AEW, I don't watch as much. If MJF is out there, I'm gonna watch MJF. Other than that, I'm just the product still hasn't 100% sold me yet. So I just think it's a lot of guys from WWE that have just made their way over to AEW. And like when CM Punk came back, I was like, okay, CM Punk came back. Then he starts complaining about WWE, and I'm like, okay, it's the same old CM Punk. Click. I'm good. So
that's my goat. Relax.
Yeah, my bad. But that's just me. Like I didn't like that he came back and started complaining and all that. But like, yeah, I just love what MJF is doing. I love how he's like the biggest free agency box office of 2024 I can't wait till January 1st, 2024. I think WWE is going to try and steal him away. But I can't wait to see what kind of bag he takes home because the way he's talking right now, like he is going to be asking for a whole lot of money.
Yeah, and as he should. And honestly,
yeah.
I love our coverage of the Chargers and Raiders right now. So let's continue with it. I need to know your favorite wrestling match ever.
Shoot,
it's a very difficult question. I know.
I love so many.
Or even I'm
gonna have to go Undertaker, Triple H, WrestleMania with Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee.
That was my first WrestleMania. I think it's WrestleMania 28 in
really?
Miami. Who could forget Flo Rida performing, bringing the Rock out? Who could forget
exactly.
that?
But I mean, just those two guys literally left it all out in the ring. Like they all incredible. Three of them needed to help each other make their way up the ramp. So that to me, because Undertaker is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Rey Mysterio is one of them because I'm from San Diego, so 619. Rey's also one of my top guys, but just the Undertaker, the way he really like for years and years just left it all out on the ring, it's incredible.
And the coolest thing was, there was two cool things. Number one, there was two times that night when I got out of my seat and screamed like a little boy. It was when The Rock won.
Oh yeah,
and because the Rock's my guy. It's the whole reason why I spent my whole Pell Grant on getting the money to go down there. Like it's a true story. But also, when Undertaker kicked out of the pedigree
and the Sweet Chin music
and the Sweet Chin music. Oh my God, I said super kick and the Sweet Chin music, and then he kicked out.
Oh my! I was like, no, I was like, no, it's over, and then he kicks out. I was like, oh my God! I'm like, what?
And then also the coolest thing too, which by the way, for any of anybody listening, like, I know a lot of tickets have been sold, but if you can make it to LA for WrestleMania, like, please do, because one of my favorite moments was when Undertaker finally won. Obviously, they're playing at Dolphin Stadium. They're in the stadium, and what they do is they put the fireworks also on the top.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
the fireworks went off. The match happened right. So, like, perfect timing because it was night out when it wasn't, because it started during the day. So it was night out. The fireworks are going out, and you're just surrounded by fireworks as like a dome of fireworks. And I was like, yo, this is heavenly.
Yeah.
So, okay, we got you.
And all the rumors I keep on hearing about, because I'm supposed to be, well, as of right now, I'm going to be covering WrestleMania 39. So all the rumors I keep on hearing about the matches, if you're a wrestling fan, you have to go.
Would you like to see, because I mean, obviously, I think that CM Punk is still under contract with AEW. I think that this was a perfect storyline because he really did get hurt and he's going to be out for this long time. And I know that even with the video game, like, they took him out the cover, but then some of these GameStops are starting to get promotional items, and it's the original cover with CM Punk. That stuff goes through a lot of things where that may be not updated and stuff, but I truly think that AEW still has him signed, and they're going to bring him back, and they're just going to let this drama unfold on camera, because why wouldn't you? That's money, and everyone's going to want to watch because it happened backstage and this, that, and the third. But if that doesn't happen, would you be excited to see a CM Punk Stone Cold match? Because that's one of the rumors.
Oh yeah. But that's it. Like, I don't want CM Punk to come back full time. They don't need him full time. They've moved on. I think WWE's in a good spot right now with Triple H, with some of these guys that they're going to be bringing in. I think they bring him back, have him and Stone Cold finally give us the match that we've all been waiting for. And then, hey, CM Punk, congratulations. Thank you so much. We'll keep you in mind for future matches. But as of right now, we're gonna keep on going with our product. And if you know what, if CM Punk does well against, because Stone Cold impressed me last year, holy crap, like, I couldn't believe he moved so well. He took a lot of hits that I was surprised at. So if CM Punk does well, maybe at SummerSlam you decide to bring him back. Maybe because I think it's going to be in Toronto, and I think that's Edge's last match. Maybe Edge and CM Punk go at it one final time, and that'd be a good one. There's a lot of matches that I love. I'd love to see Seth Rollins against CM Punk. There are some matches, but you have to keep CM Punk in a controlled environment. Don't let him talk to any other wrestlers. Keep him by himself. I'm not trying to say that.
So you don't believe in the thing that, one of the things I do is that I think AEW, like, they just need adults, because a lot of things that go on, even outside of the drama, just like putting a show together, making sure these matches go, it just doesn't seem like there's enough adults watching.
Exactly. Things. Well, the adult left. The adult said, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go back to the product that he crapped on for years. And I love that Cody Rhodes is back. Cody Rhodes is amazing. I love that he said, I have unfinished business, and he went back to WWE. He honestly broke the door down and said, hey, I'm not happy at AEW. I'm going to go back to WWE. That's going to turn a lot of like Kenny Omega and some of these guys. I'm pretty sure at one point they're going to be like, you know what? And MJF is a Cody Rhodes guy. That's why I feel like Cody Rhodes is helping WWE behind the scenes also to try and get these guys to come over. But I think Cody Rhodes moving back was a huge deal, and it's going to be interesting to see moving forward what happens. But I don't know. You're right. There's not enough adults in the room, and it's a lot of kids, but like, trying to put everything together, and I think that's what's hurting them. Losing Cody Rhodes was a huge, and they're about to lose William Regal, according to a lot of reports. That's gonna be another huge loss. William Regal is very good at what he does, and if WWE really is gonna put William Regal back in his old job or give him a new job, WWE is only gonna get better moving forward.
All this stuff is so spicy, and I'm very surprised too, because the reason that LA is like everyone's freaking out over, outside of it being LA and finally the new stadium at SoFi Field, but The Rock. Rock's a busy man. Black Adam's finally done after 15 years.
Yeah, I know.
He has a lot of things going on, but ultimately, do you see him coming back?
Oh yeah. And you know what I wish it was? I wish Roman would put up the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble. Put up one of them. Cody Rhodes music hits. They come out, they're wrestling, blah, blah, blah. Then number 30 comes out, If you smell, The Rock comes out to the ring. They're all competing. They're all competing. The Rock accidentally knocks Roman out of it's Cody Rhodes. Let's just say Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins team up against Roman Reigns and The Rock. They start going at it. The Rock accidentally knocks Roman out of the damn ring. All this stuff, and that's how the drama gets started. Like I don't know, just something like that. Like something like that would be a lot of fun to
But
see.
you want
like
the
him
belt off of the match, or do you want the belt on the match?
Yeah, no, off. And you know what? I hate that Roman's gonna lose that streak, but I think that to really give people, hey, who's gonna win, Roman or The Rock? You need to take the belt off to really give people the curiosity of maybe The Rock can beat Roman, and you just don't know. So. I think both belt. I think you need a belt back on Raw. Raw seems a little incomplete right now without a what's his name just cashed in the Money in the Bank on the United States Championship. Like that was so dumb.
But
like,
hey,
that was
but
dumb.
Did you see the match though?
Yeah, no.
The past 2 weeks they kind of like turned something that was a debacle.
100%. Yeah, no, I get it, but I mean at the same time you need one champion on Raw, one on SmackDown, and I think Cody Rhodes. Whether it be at the Royal Rumble or at WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes needs to win that championship. I can't wait to see him be the champion.
All right, two more questions here.
Right.
The second to last one. What's your favorite wrestling event ever? Whether you've been or watching, like what's your go-to one that you could watch?
I mean, my favorite wrestling match ever was because I went to this. It was in San Diego. It was Edge versus The Undertaker in a ladder match, in a TLC match. It was on what was that one pay-per-view called?
Unforgiven?
ECW One Night Stand.
No, One Night Stand. Okay.
It was in like 2006. And I remember my dad took me and my brother because we were young at the time too. My dad falls asleep, Batista comes out and he goes, bah, 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 bah. My dad like jumps up and he's like, what the hell's going on? I just started laughing. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, that's why you don't fall asleep at wrestling events. And
that's hilarious.
So we were just laughing. My dad didn't like wrestling. He's not like, he hates that we like watched it or whatever. He hates that. The one thing is my mom and dad used to get mad that I would watch wrestling. Now that I have to go cover it and go to events, they're like, I can't believe you get
Mijo, like, you did it.
Yeah, I know. So they just started laughing about it. I'm like, see, you guys shouldn't have tried to stop me from watching it. But yeah, that TLC match, it was Edge and La Familia versus The Undertaker, because it was when Chavo Guerrero, Vicky Guerrero, and Kurt Hawkins and Woo 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 Zack Ryder were a part of Edge's cult. So it was that was one of my favorite events to go to.
Perfect. Yo, it's 11:40 the bet. It is almost game day. Your Raiders preview. Last question. Who's going to win on Sunday? Raiders or Chargers?
I'm honestly, the only reason why I'm going to say the Chargers is because I think they have a lot more to play for. They have a wild card. Like New England could lose Thursday night. The Jets could lose Sunday, and the Chargers could be in a prime position and try and take that last wild card spot. And I think right now the Chargers know that a lot, when I say a lot is riding on them making the playoffs. If not, that could cost some people some jobs. So
wait, sidebar. Brandon Staley's job?
No. I think it would start at the top. I think it'd be a little bit higher before that.
Why is he Teflon? Like from this respect, I find it interesting that obviously, first off, the team hasn't had that success with some of the stellar pieces that it has on offense and defense. Yeah. But also, as much that's been talked about the analytics and going for on fourth down, this and the third, he was a defensive-minded coach, and that's what he was brought in here. And like the run game for the run defense for the Chargers has been miserable, and the defense hasn't been that good, despite the pieces in Derwin James and Bosa, this and the third. Like, it seems to me that's never been a point of contention with the fan base. Is that just because I'm outside the bubble?
So, like, you're saying, like, okay, my bad. So you're saying that basically that the like his calling card is a defense, and the defense is bad.
Yeah, and like it doesn't seem that anybody like goes after him because of that.
You know, no. There's been a lot of criticism of him because of it, and one thing he's gonna, or not him, but the fan base is pointing out, this is the reason: the injuries. They've been knocked with injuries all season. They've lost 3 defensive tackles and they're done for the season. They've lost Bosa for most of the season. On offense, they lost Keenan Allen for most of the season. They've lost Mike Williams for the last few games. So there has been a lot of injuries that has sustained. So it's kind of like the like this is what happens with the Chargers year in and year, like every year. We would have been better if the injuries don't happen. So that's kind of where they're kind of giving them a little bit of a pass because of the injuries. But last year, I mean, they were pretty much healthy the whole season. And they played a lot better. They were a lot better on offense. On defense, they were a little bit worse. I think they were worse last year on defense. But this year, what the defense is doing, really, Adrian, is they're giving them a chance at the end of games. They're holding teams. Like on Sunday, Arizona hadn't punted the whole game. They punted 4 times in the fourth quarter. And the Chargers defense was able to stop them all 4 times. So that gave the Chargers the ball back. They were able to win the game because of it. So that's the thing. The defense has been giving the Chargers, yeah, they may give up yards and touchdowns and all that, but at the end of games, they're giving the Chargers a chance, the offense a chance to win. So I feel like that's kind of where folks aren't really losing their minds because they're like, well, at least at the end of games, they're giving these guys a chance to try and win it. But no, there has been a lot of criticism of Staley, especially this year, for more inside than out, because I don't think people really listen to the outside noise. Now inside, I mean, fans and media and everything, they have criticized the defense, and he calls it a work in progress.
Well, Fernando, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of upset because I wanted to keep it to just one football question and the rest wrestling for the Raiders preview show. But I had to ask two. So Raider Nation, you're welcome. Before we get you out of here, though, Fernando, be sure to plug everything and where we can see your work and everything that you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So on the Sporting Tribune, I obviously cover the Chargers, and it's you can find all my work there, my Twitter, my Instagram, and I try and dabble in TikTok. My TikTok's more wrestling though, so I don't know how fans feel about that.
Vibes, let's go. As we
exactly. So all 3 of them are at Real F Ramirez. I was actually pretty lucky to be able to get it on all 3.
Facts, look at you.
So yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then also I have a podcast with my co-host Gilbert Manzano. We're just 2 Latinos covering the NFL. Pretty fun. Not a lot of us that you see now. We know Adrian, who covers it as well. So that's pretty cool. Not a lot. There's not a lot of us, to be honest. So we started a podcast.
Mexicanos.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I got the
there you go.
Let's
okay. There you go. So we have a regular Compas on the Beat where it's called Compas on the Beat. We do NFL stuff on there. We have a show called Combat Compas. Gilbert's wrestling and boxing. No. Gilbert's UFC and boxing. I'm WWE. We do that. We do Compas FC for the World Cup. So if people want to check that show out, we're doing some World Cup stuff as well. And then we have a What's Up Bolts, which is a Chargers-based show. And then we have a Rams, because Gilbert covers the Rams, called House of Horns. So we're doing 5 shows on our podcast platform. Yeah, so we'd appreciate it if you guys would check that out. It's a lot of fun. And Adrian, thank you so much for having me on.
No, absolutely. And we'll be sure to put all your information in the description, wherever you're tuning us in. Fernando, I know it's the first time we've talked. I know we're going to talk a whole bunch more. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.